Hi, guys. Jim Vinosky with Manufacturing Talks here. I've got a vital guest today, and he's going to be talking about some stuff near and dear to my heart. I've talked in the past about the need for us to be better marketers of our own business and manufacturing, the need for us to reach out to our young people and to help build the workforce of the future. Well, Terry Iverson, who helped run his family's company for his whole career, is here to talk about how he's jumped into the fray on all of that and more, and how critical it is that his fellow manufacturing leaders and executives also do the same, invite people in to see their operations, get into the schools, help market manufacturing, help change the message out there in society about opportunities and careers in manufacturing. So Terry's here. Stay tuned for him here on Manufacturing Talks in just a few minutes.
Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
EYS Media, your digital media relations agency. Public relations, website design, digital marketing. You get found by the customers and talent who need your solutions. You get media placements in top publications, the best job candidates coming to your website, a digital presence that gets you found by the right people. Call 616-298-8798 to get started today.
All right, everybody. Yeah, welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vinosky, your host, and as always, thanks to our sponsor, DYS Media. Check them out online. Lots of good folks over there. And I am really happy to be joined today by Terry Iverson. So he's third generation leader from Iverson Company, and he'll talk about that. He's moved on, and he's a founder of a place called Champion Now, very heavily invested in creating our future workforce, which is a topic near and dear to my heart. So glad to have you here, Terry. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be able to help out and be featured on your podcast.
Well, and we're honored to have you here. I always have a soft spot in my heart for people who have been out there on, the front lines, on the floor of the manufacturing world. And, I know in your career have more than enough to talk about around that. And then also the work you're doing to engage with our young people and to highlight manufacturing with them, I think is critical. So, that's what I want to start with, is just tell us about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Well, as a young man, our family has been in manufacturing since 1931. So we'll be, rapidly, actually 1925. Our company started in 1931. Mm-hmm. So we'll be celebrating 100 years in manufacturing in a little over a year and a half. But that being said, I came out of college, 2 years out of college, finally succumbed to the thought that maybe I should get involved in the family business. Yeah. And initially started working in Milwaukee in a machine shop with my uncle, and then shortly thereafter, in late 1980, joined the family business with my dad. Mm-hmm. We're a machine tool distributor, and I have one uncle still living, and my dad passed a couple of years ago, and then another uncle who passed. The two uncles had machine shops, and so one is probably about 100 people is my guess. Another one, the living uncle, he sold his company, and he had 750 people in his company, in his job shop, actually. So that's basically how I got into the industry. Harry Mosier is the one that got me started down the path of being an advocate. And I'm sure you know Harry. I'm sure your listeners know Harry. Yeah. And oddly enough, Harry and I come from the same industry, the machine tool industry. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, we lived in the same area most of our careers. And when he started talking about reshoring, well, he got me talking to high school students in the mid-90s. And when he started talking about reshoring after he retired from Charmy, I said, Harry, this reshoring initiative is awesome, but we need to get, people involved and aware about manufacturing careers. Otherwise, it's not going to matter, right? People are going to bring things back, reshore it in the U.S., and they won't have employees to make our products. Right. So that's what led me to bring Champion Now as a concept. in 2012.
So tell us more about that. What is Champion now focused on, and what are you doing with that outlet?
Well, Champion now is a 501c3. I was serving on the CTE Education Foundation board for about a year in Washington D.C. And typical story. I'm sitting on a plane with a napkin. True story. And I was trying to. It's very iconic and very you hear this all the time, but I started thinking of changing manufacturing and changing perceptions. So CMP, came to mind, and I'm like, wait, change American manufacturing, change how, okay, CH, American manufacturing's perceived. I'm like, champ, that's really cool. And then I'm like, wait a minute, champion is in our nation. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's how the acronym and how the organization was named, literally. The now is the call to action, and I think that's why you're having me on this podcast, is the call to action.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's been something I've talked about, is that need, and you touched really on two key elements. One is that need for us to be better at marketing manufacturing. Unfortunately, it's gotten way too much bad press over decades, that it's dirty and dark and dangerous and no future for anybody, and it's completely false. But then also now we're in this crunch with not enough workers, especially skilled workers, and that need to engage with youth around what those specific opportunities are, and really get them moving down the path and helping to build that future workforce. So I was really happy to connect with you and look at having you on here to talk about that. And given your experience, you've kind of seen it all happen over the years. What is it around how we present manufacturing that we need to change, and then how do we go about that?
Oh boy. Well,
no pressure.
Yeah. It's a great question. It's just how I respond and portray the answer.
Yeah.
First of all, I think a lot of us in manufacturing have done a good job keeping our head down, making sure we make payroll, make sure we deal with all the challenges that we have. But while we market to our customers and to our customer base, what we do, we're not real good at talking about our industry and our careers and offsetting or combating the perception that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that's been my mission, is to try to change our culture. Back in 1980, when I first started, right around 83, when the first recession that I actually experienced, which was pretty significant.
Yep.
You heard rumbles when I was a young professional, a young salesperson, that people would say, well, we're going to be a service-based economy. Right. And those of us in manufacturing, you could probably feel the hairs on the back of your neck and your arms stand up in shock and anger at that time, because it's like, no, we can never allow our country to be just a service-based economy.
Right.
If you study the economic powers in terms of countries and economies around the world, you'll know that manufacturing is at the base of any successful economy anywhere in the world. And so, in '83, a lot of the apprenticeship programs started to close. A lot of the people started scaling back, and then I'll call the media out a little bit, in that manufacturing many times is measured by total employment, and that's not a fair metric. There's other ways, in addition to, not in place of, to measure the economic and social impact that manufacturing has. And so with the advent of computers came into manufacturing right around the time that I started, 1980, and automation, you're going to have more productivity and less employment. But one of the things, so that's not the only way to measure our industry. I mean, I believe the latest metric that I believe is spot on, is the manufacturing economy of the US is the 8th largest economy in the world.
Yep.
If you just measure just manufacturing.
Yep.
So rarely, if ever, do you hear that metric. And then, what you're going to find is as we get more automated, as we get more computerized, the skill set that we need is going to be more significant, as that train, so to speak, goes down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so people need to be more heavily trained. And the cost of education in this country has skyrocketed over my 43 years of career in such a way that, who wants to spend $250,000 for a degree that either they don't use or they spend to get a $40,000 to $60,000 job?
Mm-hmm.
There's a better way, and companies like General Motors is realizing that maybe there's some positions in our company that we don't need a 4-year degree for. We need skill, and we need certifications and stackable credentials, and we need to demonstrate that you can do this job, and we can provide training for that as well. But maybe it's not a 4-year degree we need. So that being said, I think that there's a lot of potential that parents, our culture in this country is so fixated on 4-year degree, and for a long time with valid reason. But in today's world, there's a lot of skill sets that don't need a 4-year degree. And there's a lot of manufacturers and companies like mine and others that will pay for that education. So you don't even have to, pay for it on your own. There's a very notable, slogan that you can earn and learn at the same time. And so that's very appealing, or can be. But then lastly, what I'll say, Jim, is that, the demographics, if you look at the demographics, which I just sat through in April, a really good presentation, people think that our industry is fighting for the numbers in terms of employees simply because it's not the best paying job or not attractive, and that's totally false.
Right.
But when you look at the demographics, the baby boomers are exiting, and the baby boomers were the largest generation, I think, of all time. Mm-hmm. There's about a 10 million person void in the next generation down. So that's why you hear everybody complaining to the same degree. It's not just manufacturing, right, but every profession, every career, simply because there's that many or that fewer workers in the workforce, period.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point. You mentioned how the jobs today aren't the same as what they were in decades past, where it was a lot of manual labor, not a lot of brain work at all. And that's certainly changed. Even someone running the most basic production machine is dealing with computers and dealing with high-level production systems. And now when you talk about the changes in the workforce, what people don't realize is there's been a lot of automation in manufacturing that's gone on. There's going to have to be a lot more because those justifications change when you just don't have the workers available. And so the jobs will continue to get higher tech. They'll continue to require those higher level training and knowledge bases that people still talk about not being part of manufacturing. And so I agree. We've really got to do a better job of having people understand, nothing wrong with going and getting a four-year degree and going into a job that's not manufacturing, but it comes with a lot of what you talked about around the burden of debt and losing 4 years of opportunity cost, essentially. Going a different way and coming into manufacturing and going into work straight out and using the education you get on the floor and then the educational assistance most companies now provide is a great other path.
For sure. I totally agree. And I think, we need to get the message out, and we need to, band together and engage in practices and habits that are conducive to be responsible to our community. Right. When I say responsible to our community, what I mean by that is let's don't be that best kept secret on the block. People drive by all of our plants every day, and occasionally think, boy, I wonder what's behind those walls. And we can't, as an industry and as a country, we can't afford that.
Right.
We need to on Manufacturing Day, October 5th, Manufacturing Month, October. We need to invite our communities in and invite our parents and students in, and really show off what we're very proud of, and do more of that. So that's one way that people can simply jump on the bandwagon.
Well, and now you're really preaching to the choir and hitting a nerve with me. I've talked for so long about the wrong-headedness of manufacturing leaders who feel like they've got these trade secrets and have to keep their doors closed and keep people out. Well, I've been in the industry 35 years myself. I've seen some trade secrets, but I could probably count the valid ones on both hands. And everything else our executives in the companies I've worked for thought were trade secrets weren't secrets at all. And so we're keeping people out for really bad reasons and hurting ourselves in the process. And then, to your point, hurting our communities and our workforce as well.
For sure. I think, one of the things that, there's various disconnects, and, there's all different directions we can go with this conversation. But one of the disconnect is our culture and parents thinking that this is the only path. Another disconnect, and it's not their fault, because that's all they hear. They hear all the negative things.
Right.
And we all want what's best for our child, but what's best is many times, debatable unless you do a deep dive into really understanding. So then, in addition to that, one of the disconnects with the school system is our government leaders measure our schools by how many young people go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of educators that really see the light and really have to go rogue, literally and figuratively, to develop CTE programs and Project Lead the Way programs, and actually go down a path that's counterintuitive to how they're measured. So that being said, I think one of the things that I try to speak to, and most recently have tried to speak to, is the disconnect between the parents and students. One of my favorite stories is a young lady came up to me up in Milwaukee when I was speaking, and she said, "Mr. Iverson, I want to be a welder." And I'm like, "That's awesome." I'm like, welders do really well, and a lot of welders are extremely creative people, and welders get paid very well. And she goes, "Well, but my parents don't want me to be a welder." And I'm like, "Well, the only thing I can tell you is you really need to educate your parents and show them that A, you're going to be safe, B, you can be very happy doing it, C, you can be financially stable and successful, and then you'll have a fighting chance that they'll want what's best for you." And that's really, where our culture is different. In Europe, I speak a lot, Jim, about Europe, how, Germany, Switzerland, I've spent a fair amount of time in, and their apprenticeship programs are still, doing well. And our apprenticeship program in this country is making a comeback, a strong comeback, I might add. But we're fighting our culture here, and that is in Europe, much younger, young people are figuring out what they're good at, what their aptitude is, and what path to take, whether it be 4-year degree or not. And the way the skilled trades are perceived is in very high regard and not looked down upon. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure how this came about, but the fact is educators, or not educators, pardon me. The fact is manufacturers have a lot of very bright, very creative, very successful people.
Yep.
And so these careers should be held in high regard, and they should be, held in high esteem, and people should be encouraged to follow them. And then the last thing I'll say on the education side, Jim, is that, education, I kid a lot about the fact that I was ADHD before they could spell ADHD. So my attention span was very short. So, I was a fairly bright young man. I had AP calculus, AP physics. But the way I was taught there was no project-based learning. There was not, things weren't relevant to each other. And there's so many different means of doing that in today's world. And so I think that a lot of times we lose track and we lose sight of the fact of how a young person learns, not to mention try to understand where their passion is and where their aptitude is. And so that's another component that I think we need to address.
Yeah. Now, you had talked about those of us in industry, especially leaders and executives, kind of charting a new course. What do you have to say to people in industry as far as, what should they be doing right now? How should they be getting engaged? You mentioned opening doors. I absolutely agree with you there. But personally, how should manufacturing leaders and executives be engaging in this to get the biggest bang for the buck, I guess?
Well, I think there lies my mission and my passion is that if people say, Terry, Jim, Terry, I don't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of say, well, hold on a second. From 2012 to 2023, for the last 10 or 11 years, what I've tried to do is lay down resources to make it easy on people. Yeah. I've written 2 books, and both books, in the big scheme of things, $20 a piece, basically, have success stories and people that have been very successful in leading our industry of different habits and actions that can make a huge impact, not only for our country and our industry and our community, but themselves as well. So, Manufacturing Day, I mentioned earlier, that's just one of many components. Hitching your wagon to your local high school that has a CTE program or a Project Lead the Way program and actively engage there, that's another way. Mm-hmm. But I understand, I really empathize with people that say, I don't know where to start. Where I really kind of draw the line is say, look, if I can just, convince you or plead to, take a look and look at, videos that I try to put out there for everybody, which are going up on our YouTube site shortly. Our Champion Now page that, on not only Facebook, but Twitter, LinkedIn, and so forth. And then I try to put, written word. I guess, let me say this. In 2013, I had all these engagements and involvements in advisory boards, educational institutions, TMA, CTE in Washington. And on a flight to Taiwan, Jim, I was thinking, well, I got 13 hours on my hands here. I wonder what I should be doing with that time. Yeah. And I thought, boy, it'd really be terrible if I retired or passed or whatever. And I didn't take everything that I've learned and everything that I've learned to understand and appreciate and not give back and not give it to others to use. Yep. When Harry convinced me Harry Mosier convinced me to talk to, young people and students in a classroom, that was great for 20 or 30 young people, but to me, that wasn't adequate. Mm-hmm. And so having a broader platform, a broader organization that I can show the way for so many people, that's what Champion Now has always meant to be.
Got it. Now, let me play devil's advocate. We're all busy, all of us, and those of us in manufacturing, I think uniquely so in a lot of cases. What do you say to manufacturing leaders who say, I agree all that needs to be happening, but I personally am just too busy to get into that, too busy to spend time on that?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, I would agree you are too busy. There's not a manufacturer that I know that isn't.
Yeah.
So I would concur with that. And I would be the first to say, I just don't have time for this. But then I want you to reconsider, think of all the fees that you've paid for recruiters. Mm-hmm. Usually it's 20 to 30% of a first year salary, based on what I've seen. Yep. So think about all that money you've spent. think of all the time that you've placed ads and had countless dozens, if not more than dozens, of people to interview and not had a good fit for your industry. Okay. And then continue on thinking about that and thinking about, how much you're paying your existing workers for overtime, which some of them, to be honest, some of the older individuals that are more tenured, they may not even want that overtime,
Right.
regardless of the extra pay, because they have a balance, work-life balance that they're trying to find.
Yeah, they're
So
too
think of
busy
all these
too.
things. Yeah, well, they want to enjoy, their children as they
Yeah,
grow or as they mature into adults, or their grandchildren or what have you. And
absolutely.
so think about all those things. And when you add all those things up, I think what you'll find is that you can't afford not to. And and then think of all the time you've complained about not being able to hire someone or find
Mhm.
someone, which we've all done. And so I guess what I'm saying is it's just like Harry Mosier when he I'll use him as an example again, because he's worth making an example of.
Sure.
He convinces companies that the total cost of ownership of taking your product and sending it overseas and making it overseas, when you really look at it from a very scientific and logical way, you may be only saving 10 to 20% in terms of your costs. But then when you start taking into account all the other items that really your intellectual property loss by sending things overseas, your responsiveness to your customers,
Mhm.
when you start thinking like that, which is very sound, it's a very sound and logical premise. If you apply that to what we're talking about, I think you'll come to the same uh, endpoint. And then look at other people that are joining in and advocating for themselves and being actively engaged, and look within their organizations. And I bet what you'll find is a lot of their process and their leadership and the people in their company are a direct result of their engagement and leadership in that venue.
Yep. Good deal. As you look to the future now with your efforts, what's big coming down the road? What other focus areas do you see that you're going to be getting into with all this?
Well, the first, do you want me to talk a little bit about the books at all, real quick, or no?
Absolutely. Definitely want to
Okay,
hear the names of the books and what they're about. And yeah, that's a big part of what you're doing.
Okay, so this was our first book, my first book in 2018, Finding America's Greatest Champion. The word champion is intentionally alluding to champion now, and it's in every
Yep.
book. And it's just a great term, right? It's a great word. And the subtitle, I think I was very proud of, and that is Building Prosperity Through Manufacturing, Mentoring, and the Awesome Responsibility of Parenting. So this book was literally, I bring all sorts of people from all different walks of life to talk about things other than manufacturing, and in many cases, manufacturing itself. In 2023, I decided to write Inspiring Champions in Advanced Manufacturing, and it's I was very fortunate and honored to get the CEO of Siemens USA endorsement for the cover, Barbara Humpton, which is awesome.
Nice.
And so this is the parent version or parent edition of the book. And then when you flip it over, you have a second side, which is the student edition.
Oh, cool.
So basically, you have two front covers, and so you have each audience with inverted text reading from the outside in, with questions for the parent to ask the child and the child to ask the parent, all surrounding around career exploration and reflecting of aptitude, passion, interest, and assets in terms of what each young person is strong at. And then in addition to the books, I'm going to be posting on YouTube shortly, on a YouTube channel, 4.5 hours of videos, educational videos that talk. There's 22 different videos that just educate about manufacturing in general. What I consider to be very basic concepts, so that people have something to say, okay, Terry, I'm going to give this manufacturing a shot, but I want to learn more about it and see what it's all about and see if it's for me.
Yeah.
So that being said, most recently, my son Brett and I have developed a camp that we call Camp Champ. Once again, there's
Nice. Yeah.
that champion allusion to champion again.
Mm-hmm.
And Camp Champ, what we do is we take tabletop CNC machines. A local organization in Illinois called IMEC funded us to do 5 camps, and we just recently did one where we manufacture wooden pens. These are 2 of the more colorful pens, and then there's one that's a little bit more drab. And we turn them on a CNC lathe that's tabletop, and then we put them on a scissors lift and we roll them literally into an organization. And the premise, Jim, is that we have juniors and seniors in CTE programs, Project Lead the Way programs, mentoring middle school students. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, not only do they get a pen that they assemble, but we also we actually demonstrate a wooden case that we're machining. These take about an hour to produce, so we don't actually give these out because it's just too time consuming.
Yep.
But we do give out the case that's attractive, black case that the pen goes in. But then we also laser engrave their name, the child's name, the middle schooler's name on a plaque that goes on the case.
Yep.
And so from a sustainability standpoint, we have the middle schoolers coming in. They're going to be in high school soon after. They're going to know the people that mentored them in this camp. And then hopefully they're going to go into the CTE program, and then they're going to be the mentors for the next round. So it's kind of a pull system to bring young people into something that probably they would never even know about otherwise.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, we're about out of time, but what haven't we hit on that's still dangling out there? Anything important that we have left to cover?
Well, yesterday I launched my Kickstarter page for the second book, where people can buy 1 book and a pen together, or 2 books,
cool,
or 3 books, or even a whole box of books for Manufacturing Day. So there's that. I would encourage people to reach out on Champion Now's website to try to sponsor a camp locally. Everything we call Camp Champ, bringing manufacturing localism, because that's what it's all about. I'm not so naive to think that people should jump on this wagon and invest or help participate in something that's going to be hundreds of miles away from them.
Right.
We try to long term, because we have a plan going on right now. We're in Illinois, and we hope to go much beyond that. But if nothing else, getting books into owners' hands so that they can get those books into young people and parents' hands in their community, and then eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to replicate Camp Champ, and then have basically a cell traveling either on a private label basis for a company or for an organization, or in a state institution where it can travel within the state going forward down the road.
Excellent. Well, you're not that far from Grand Rapids, so you're going to have to get you up this way.
And Grand Rapids is a great manufacturing community. Absolutely. Yep. You guys just had a machine tool show probably less than 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yep. Well, good deal. Terry, it has been illuminating and also a very important conversation. So I appreciate your time today.
Jim, I can't thank you enough, and I encourage your readers to jump into the fray. And if they have any questions, they can reach me at terry@championnow.org. That's an email address, or tiverson@iversonandco.com. And I'm all in. And with your help, hopefully we can get more coming to the party.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you. And then, of course, thanks to all of you in the audience for joining us for this important conversation. I will put links to everything Terry mentioned on the description for both the YouTube video and the podcast outlet. Definitely want to get you guys all in and working on this together. So critical stuff for manufacturing. Thanks again, Terry. Thanks to the audience. And, we're here every Tuesday. So I can't promise that every message we have is going to be as vital to manufacturing as the one Terry brought us today, but everything we cover is vital. So tune in. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinoski. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.